Joining me now, we have Washington Congressman Adam Smith. He is the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee and a friend to us. Good to see you, Congressman. So we have Iran saying that they've closed the Strait of Hormuz again. However, we have the reports that it's actually radio messages they're sending, maybe not follow up with any action on those radio messages to ships saying it's closed. It does not expect much, though, to be accomplished in Switzerland until the fighting in Lebanon ends. And therein brings my question, because there are reports U.S. intelligence believes Israel will continue to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon. So how, sir, does this complicate efforts to end the war? Does the continued fighting there expose a serious gap between what the administration says it's negotiated and what it can actually enforce?
Yeah, no, it complicates it significantly. I do want to be clear here. All the reports are Israel continues to attack Lebanon. Israel has honored the ceasefire until Hezbollah has attacked them. Over the last week or so, there's been a series of ceasefires, and Hezbollah inevitably launches missiles or drones. They killed 4 Israeli soldiers a couple of days ago, and then Israel responds. Now, we can argue that Israel shouldn't have such a hair trigger in response, but it's Hezbollah who's breaking the ceasefire right now. So if Iran wants Lebanon to be part of it, then they need to make sure that Hezbollah stops fighting. But yes, that is a significant impediment. As long as those ceasefires, and these ceasefires last like an hour or two, they don't last any amount of time at all. Got to get to a ceasefire in Lebanon before the talks over the Strait of Hormuz and the other issues can proceed.
So it seems like the only concessions in the MOU are Iran's promise not to pursue a nuclear weapon and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, essentially getting back to the pre-war status quo. But Iran gets sanctions relief and a massive $300 billion reconstruction fund with an agreement on its nuclear program. That's to be worked out over the next 60 days during these talks. But given the leverage Iran has exerted over the U.S., is the MOU, sir, the best place to start negotiating a permanent end to the war? Are there any alternatives?
Well, 2 things. One, this all points up what an utter disaster this war was and what an unbelievably stupid decision it was to start it. We knew that Iran had the ability to survive, to place the Strait of Hormuz at risk, and to place the entire region at risk. And yeah, we could effectively destroy a lot of targets in Iran. We could not destroy their ability to basically hold the region and much of the world at risk. So stumbling into a war, knowing that the objectives were not going to be achievable, was an enormous mistake. And we are weaker now because of it. Iran is doing something that they had not previously done, using the Strait of Hormuz as a leverage point. And it turns out it's a really effective leverage point. So we've empowered them in that way. Now we're negotiating over how much money to free up for them in exchange for opening the strait, in exchange basically for getting us back to where we were before. And on the nuclear program, we've made no progress on it. There is no agreement whatsoever. Iran has always said that they don't intend to build a nuclear weapon. So getting them to simply continue saying what they've always said, the problem is, of course, we've never quite believed them on that point. So we wanted to hold them accountable for it. That was the JCPOA. Now, we are in an incredibly weaker position. But sorry, to your second point, is there a better option right now? I don't think there really is. I think this is the negotiation we have to have. I guess I can give Trump credit for at least going forward with that negotiation instead of just continuing a war that was going nowhere. But for him to claim that this is any kind of success is simply ridiculous.
So the JCPOA, the Obama-era deal, it took 20 months to negotiate. It involved lawyers, economists, nuclear experts. And Trump left negotiations to his vice president and his special envoy, who built a career developing real estate. How confident are you that this administration will reach a final agreement with comparable restraints to the Obama deal?
Yeah, I don't think that's remotely possible. I think the best they're going to do is to get a promise from Iran on a whole series of things, because what took those 18 to 20 months to negotiate the JCPOA was verification. How do we make sure of what Iran is doing with their nuclear material and what they're not doing? And how do we make sure that inspectors are allowed in to do that verification? And all of those details were worked out. Now, I don't think the team that's working on this right now is remotely capable of negotiating that type of complicated deal. So look, I mean, we fundamentally failed, or Trump has fundamentally failed in this war to try to bring Iran's nuclear program to heel. You know, we're going to have to live with it. And I'll tell you, the other big thing we should be talking about is how do we deter and contain Iran now that Trump has put us in this weaker position and launched this war. But again, I do want to emphasize, I want this war ended. You know, more bombs, you know, a bigger blockade, more conflict. You know, best thing we can do right now is end the war. It's not in our best interest. It's certainly not in the region's best interest. And also, we need a sustainable ceasefire in Lebanon. There's a ton of issues to work out there. Hezbollah keeps breaking that ceasefire. But the war in Lebanon is also incredibly dangerous for the region.
Yeah, for sure. Let's pivot to Friday, when Bill Pulte became acting director of national intelligence. This after Trump postponed the confirmation hearing for Jay Clayton, his permanent pick for the job. The Wall Street Journal reports Trump made the move so Pulte has time to execute mass firings in the intelligence community. Trump also demanded Senate Republicans attach the Save America Act to the reauthorization of FISA Section 702, which expired last week. What do you, first of all, make of Trump's Pulte maneuver? And then secondly, what are the consequences of a prolonged lapse of FISA?
Yeah, I think the thing about Pulte to keep in mind is it points out the fact that Trump has a very limited interest in governing our country well. I'm not saying he doesn't pay any attention to that, but it is not his primary focus. His primary focus is using the instruments of our government, now that he controls them, to exact his revenge against his political opponents and to consolidate his personal power and his personal wealth. Pulte is there to do that, to weaken the intelligence community so that Trump has the power, doesn't feel threatened by them. And the other thing that Trump has said that I don't think has gotten nearly enough play is he said Pulte is going to be able to look into some of the election irregularities from 2020. So he's making it clear that he's going to use this guy again to use government information against Trump's political opponents. This is incredibly damaging to the health of this country. We need our intelligence operations, and Trump is treating it more like a personal thing to enhance his power, not to protect our interests. And as far as the SAVE Act, the Voting Rights Act, they've been throwing this out, you know, every other week. It's like, we won't do anything until you pass that, till they pass their effort basically to undermine our elections. They still don't have the votes. There's still not support for it in the Senate. I don't see that happening, but it can certainly slow down the appropriations process, the ability to have the DNI doing their job, because Trump is obsessed with it because, again, he's obsessed with undermining free and fair elections to make sure that no matter what, he wins.
Congressman Adam Smith, I always appreciate your candor, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, sir.